Alright, so now that we have tested that, let's just move this down here and let's have a look at RPiTX next. Now the thing is, when I installed this on top of the other installation, I couldn't use PyFM or PyFM RDS after I've installed it, so that's why I install this first, play with it if you want wideband FM, and then play with this next, because that way you will make sure that it's working. So we'll just restart the session. If it's on the same IP address, you never know. So if it doesn't start up, and in my case it's because the Ethernet cable is not plugged in correctly. So it didn't actually crash, it's because this little clip on the cable, it's broken. So sometimes it falls out, and that means that you can't connect to it, of course. So it hadn't actually switched IP address, but whatever. Let's log in. And next, let's have a look at the installation. So it looks really simple, like super easy. Just git clone this directory, and then we run the installation script. So let's have a look at the installation script after. And it's done. So RPiTX, we'll use less. It's good to check what it's doing just to see what it does, you know. So it does apt-get update, that's fine, and it installs this file. We've already installed it. ImageMagick, that's for transmitting the image files over, I think it's SSTV that it supports. Then it creates a new hardware device, which I'm not sure what it's for, but it's necessary. And then it goes to the source directory, compiles it with the J4 flag, and then it installs it, and then it says installation done, so we can run this script. And this may take, I don't know how long it takes, but it shouldn't take ages compared to, for example, the Kismet tutorial that I made, which took, like, it could take a few hours, I think it was, for compiling some of the programs that we needed. So in this case, I think it's not going to take that long, even though this program is a little bit more complicated. So, but generally speaking, I don't think it's too bad. It's not like a huge program, but it's very nice. So as you can see, it looks like it's transmitting on GPIO 18 instead of GPIO 4. So it's a bit weird that the developer didn't just choose 4 instead of 18. And let's see, you can transmit IQ files by the looks of it. And there are various things that you could do. For example, you could transmit SSTV, which I didn't get to work, but I tried really hard. And I tried using an SSTV decoder, which I've actually tested already, so I know it works. So that was actually one of my favorite things that I wanted to test and show you guys, but I couldn't get the SSTV to work. But it's alright. So it looks like it's still installing programs, so let's hope it's soon done, because it's the ImageMagick program that's installing a lot of dependencies, which we may not need for this case, but we have to install them anyway, I guess. So now it's done installing and compiling, and it was actually, the actual compiling didn't take that long. It was mostly the installation of ImageMagick that took ages. So it says here you should reboot if it's the first installation, and I don't know, you don't reboot Linux, so let's just try without rebooting. And let's see, let's take a look at the test AM script. Let's test AM. It's transmitting on 433.9 megahertz. 433.9, and let's move it here. Test AM. I don't sample audio. Okay, this sample audio will probably be very boring, but let's give it a try because it's a lot faster than the other audio files that I have. So click play, test, switch to AM, and nothing is happening. So, alright. Sudo reboot. Let's try and reboot and see what happens. It should be ready fairly soon. Let's see, RPiTX. Let's just have a look at the test AM script again. Okay, it's using sudo because it needs sudo for transmitting. Okay, well, let's try again. Test AM. It's 433. First it's writing, so it's not transmitting yet. And nothing is happening. This is what happens quite often when you play with this software. Let's try test FM instead. You see this here? So it's definitely transmitting. Alright, so I've been testing it a bit and it's a bit odd at first. But once we have finished the installation, let's just say that we want to test the AM transmission with the default sound file. So I've just modified the frequency here. So we'll just try the FM instead. So this is 433.9. And we'll just write the file first and then it will transmit it. So in case you don't get anything like I do, then you can try and do a minor hack. So for some reason it's only working sometimes when I'm using the other GPIO, but if I'm switching to GPIO 4 with -C1, then I managed to make it work. So in case you wonder, that's I think that's French, counting from 1 and so forth. So that means that it's working. So we will just modify the other files to -C1, and we will also say, or I don't know, we don't really need to modify the files because we'll just have a look at the files and then we will run our commands based on those files. So let's say we want to try and transmit AM, for example. So we take a look at the test AM script, and first we need to run pi-am and then the audio and then RFA. So we'll run pi-am and then we will run the sound. In this case we need to run the one that's 48 kilohertz, I think, am.rfa or am2.rfa. So this may take a little bit longer depending on how big your file is. So that's why when you're using this program, it's generating a specific file to transmit over a specific frequency, or that's frequency, but band or type of radio. And in this case, it will generate a specific file to be sent over FM radio, which is why that it can be a bit boring to sit and wait for this. So that's why you can also play with some of the other things that it can do while it's, for example, generating this file. So if we duplicate the session, we can, for example, let's say we want to test the SSB. So we'll just have a look at SSB. In this case, you will just make sure that it says C1, like so. Make sure we add this frequency here. And then we will say test SSB and make sure we're listening. So there you can hear it, definitely. Doesn't sound pretty, but you can definitely hear it. So let's just zoom out again. And now we can try and test the test AM, or it's actually already here. So we say RPiTX, M, RFA, I, then it's AM2. Frequency is 403,900. L, C1. Make sure we're listening. And let's run it. See, it's not very high transmission power. For some reason, it depends on the Raspberry Pi that I'm using sometimes. Sometimes I just reboot the device and it works better. So that's one of the odd things about this. That sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. But it's fun to play with once you get it working, even though there's no logical explanation as to why it's not working, because sometimes it's working and sometimes it's not. And in this case, I managed to unplug the cable again. Let's see if the connection is still live. It's not. Well, I'll just reconnect again. So we will just reconnect, and we will just make sure that we are not using a program already. We can just, I guess we could just kill it. So RPiTX and test AM. So we want to try and run that command again. Shim RFA 33,900 C1. see what happens. Well, it's not very good signal. Let's try and put a jumper or a jumper cable on it. Much better. Did you notice the difference? It doesn't sound pretty still though, so that's a bit odd. But at least it's working. So let's try test FM. In this case we want to run pi FM as far as I know. Then sound, and then the 48 kilohertz, and then FM2. Then run this, and while we're running it, let's just try the other test scripts just to see what they do, you know. So we will say the SSTV, I don't think that's working, so let's try test FSQ. So the test FSQ is running on a too low frequency, like it's 7 megahertz, and we can't use that, so we will bump it up to 900 and use GPIO1. So we will just run this again. And we have to make sure that we are, well, that's the signal, so not much of a fun signal. I think that was it. So that's not very exciting, but it is fun to try though. And now we can try and transmit with narrowband FM. So with Pi FM RDS, it was wide FM. Now it's narrow FM. So say sudo and then RF IFM2, then frequency 900 C1. Listen. And that's without the antenna, so it's actually already going much better. And I dropped the antenna on the floor. So let's try and put a jumper cable on it. This is with the jumper cable. And this is without. So it's pretty good. So that's pretty awesome too, I guess. So let's see, we tested FSQ, SSB, what about VFO? I don't think it's that interesting, but we can try it out, see what happens. I think that's the signal, so yeah, it is, yeah. So pretty boring as well. Snap SSTV. Let's see. So the thing is, if you want to transmit a picture, you have to use the camera add-on for your Raspberry Pi, and I don't have the camera add-on, even though yes, I could buy it. But I did try use an image at these dimensions and JPEG format, and it didn't work. So I tried, but it didn't work. Anyway, that's pretty much everything for this video. Stay tuned and subscribe.